Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are EBS, your experienced technology partner for over 43 years. We specialize in the deployment of Sage Business Management and Microsoft solutions, managed services and secure on-premises and cloud-based infrastructure. My name is Darren Tolley and I'm one of the account managers here at EBS. Today we're joined by Sicon, who we have partnered with for many years. Sicon provide innovative solutions which enhance Sage 200, covering a wide range of business needs. Steve Gemot, Sicon Sales Director, will demonstrate how Sicon Enhancement works within Sage 200 to deliver over 80 improvements in functionality across many of the modules. We are recording today's presentation and we'll make this available to you in the next few days or so. There are lots of recordings on our YouTube channel. Remember to hit subscribe to receive notifications when we load new videos there. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation in the Q&A session. Without further ado, I will pass you over to Steve. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Darren. Thank you very much for that slick introduction there. Good morning, everybody. I will turn my camera off in just a moment. As Darren said, I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Sicon, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me for the next 45 minutes or so as we run through this. I will share my screen in just a second, but just before then, for those of you who perhaps haven't heard of Sicon, we are classified by Sage as a Tech Partner Plus. Essentially, we're a developer partner of Sage, something we've been doing for in excess of 20 years, and we only develop for Sage 200. We've got a broad portfolio, which I will show you what that list looks like in a few moments, but we're going to focus on the enhancement pack. Key thing from your perspective is its seamless integration with Sage 200, written into the same database, so you won't know where Sicon starts and Sage stops or vice versa. Lastly, we don't sell direct, we sell via Sage's partner community, which is where Darren and the team at EBS come in with a long-standing relationship. So let me just share my screen. And hopefully, Darren, I'll ask you just to confirm this with you. Can you see the Sicon website, Darren?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. So in terms of Sicon, as I said, there's a rather large portfolio. All of these are designed to enhance Sage 200 in some way or another. The one we're going to focus on is the enhancement pack. And the enhancement pack is slightly different to a lot of the other solutions that we have, where it's not designed for just one area. It's a pack of add-ons which we didn't know where to put them. So you get 80, 90 or so enhancements. I don't know anybody that switches them all on, and certainly I wouldn't recommend doing that, but they're designed to either enhance or just add a bit of functionality that isn't already in the Sage 200 solution. So I'm going to try and take you through some of those. To try and demo all 90 features would be nigh on impossible, but I'll take you through some of my favorites as we go. But feel free to have a look at the Sicon.co.uk website. If you go to the Help and User Guides, Enhancement Pack, all of this is in the public domain. You don't have to register. So what I've got in the background, I've got our Sage system here. And once it's all installed, and providing you've been given access to this in the Sage admin area, you'll have an Enhancement Pack folder. If we drill down into that, once the module's enabled, in terms of the settings, this is where you would switch on the relevant functions, and you can see the different areas that they're covering. So I will show some bits today. Some of them I will just use the Help and User Guide. But basically, you would switch them on, close Sage, reopen, and then be available for you to use. So let's start at the top. And actually, 1.1, one of my favorites. It's not too sad to have a favorite. Very simple, but it's now I know Sage have got pop-up notes that they've added, and some of them now there's crossover. This enhancement pack's been out for a number of years, but actually we can add pop-up notes to stock items. So if I just jump into my stock list, and if I look at my kettle with the enhancement pack installed and this particular feature enabled, we can see already I've got one of my my two pop-ups as I go into the stock item. But if you go to the site, you'll have a Sicon tab there, and if you go to pop-up notes, you can add both SOP and pop notes. So this is a kettle. So do they want a tea bag? You kind of just do whatever you've got in there. And basically it means that as your users are putting on, and we'll pick a, actually we'll pick a purchase order, it'll probably be easier in this instance. So if we just add a brand new purchase order and we go, doesn't matter who I pick, as we add a line, pick my kettle, there you go. Just something very, very simple. We need those items there, and I can add the line. And I'm just going to, just a little bit later, I'm going to just add a couple of lines in. There is method in my madness, and you'll understand why a little bit later. I'm just going to minimize that for the moment. So that's really the first one. Again, and hopefully just start to get an idea of some simple ones that we've got. I'm going to jump down now to 1.5. Again, this is not going to be relevant for everybody, but for those of you using the commercials module, so specifically stock, then what you are able to do with this particular option here, so if we were to switch on user configured product groups, what this does, this restricts what stock items a user can add to a sales order or return. So when they're first adding it, if you're amending, it actually opens up so you can pick other product groups. But basically the way that it would work, I don't actually have it enabled, but I can show you the menu option just within here, is just down here, maintain user product groups. Does need to be activated, but you can pick, these are all of the Sage users. So if I pick Steve Gemmett here, and you can say this user can select from all product groups, or you can build a list of based on the product groups that I can select. So if you have got Salesforce adding these on, then you can basically restrict what product groups I can select, and therefore what stock items I can see. So nice and simple to get set up, and obviously you would just do that for each of the users. Continuing down, I'm going to try and get through as many of these as I can today. As I said, there are different ones, and feel free to have a look through. Perhaps there might be some that I'm skipping, but it's probably just some that might be more relevant. Was 1.8. Now, again, what this one is, this is designed where, and again, you can see it's for sales ledger, purchase ledger, nominal cash book, and stock entries, where when you switch this particular setting on, what it's going to do is, and I'm going to create a customer, as I start to type in the code, it's going to show me other customers in this instance that have that similar name. So it just avoids us entering a duplicate code or actually seeing what the next reference would be within that system. So once that's switched on, again, we keep it nice and straightforward. Actually, I'll do it as a supplier there. You can see I've got Ernie Swinton. If I was to add a new account, as I start to type in, you can see that simple add-on then is just displaying a code. And actually, it might be in this instance, Ernie Swinton franchise. Well, I now could do 002. Hopefully you get the idea there. Again, just something nice and simple. I'm actually going to leave this up just for the next one. Next one I want to touch on is 1.11 here. So this is, you do need an additional license. So what we've done is we've put the groundwork in there for you. Well, actually, there's a company called Locate, or I think they're called Locate. They're, I should know actually. I found out my sister is is one of the senior management of actually this company. I didn't know. We've had it in there for a long period of time, and it was over Christmas a couple of years ago that we were talking, and she mentioned Locate, and I was like, oh, we integrate with that. And anyway, that's a boring story for you for another day. But in terms of Locate, what this does is it's an address, so postcode search type function. So we've done, you can see here which areas of the system we've dropped this in. You do need to register with Locate. So you just click on sign up for Locate from there. There's a charge then per search. But essentially what you'll have is, with that enabled, you'll be able to click on find address. So I haven't got a live account here. You can then start to search, and it's looking through all the raw mail addresses, and it just means that you can then find the appropriate address, confirm that, and it will then drop that into the address list for you. So again, if you're looking for something just to make sure that your addresses are accurate, then that's a great feature. It's in the enhancement pack. So as I say, we've done all the Sage touch points. You just need to sign up for that locate service itself. The last one, just within the common one, then is it's actually 1.12. And again, if you just have a look in there, the reason for coming back to this here is it does detail how these work. But basically what we've done is we've added some dashboards into Sage itself that can actually be written using SQL. Now, if you ask me to write SQL, I'd take a very long time to come back to you and then tell you the computer says no. But if you've got people in your organization who understand SQL, then feel free to write your own. Otherwise, again, Darren and the team at EBS, this is their bread and butter. But essentially, you've got up to 10 dashboards, and you've got this maintain dashboard panel. And again, in good old Blue Peter fashion, here's some I made earlier. You can have list views, you can have pie charts, bar charts, you can even have fields, and I'll show you what the fields looks like in a moment. But basically, by dropping the SQL in there and validating, and by the way, these don't just have to be Sicon tables, because this is in your Sage 200. This is within that Sage 200 database. These could be, in some examples, we've got customers who've used this for accrual reports, whereby there's a list view, and they can right mouse click and export that out of here into Excel ready, so they can journal that back in. Again, just some examples, but basically create these different panels. And if I just to add one in, the fields one just allows you to have up to four columns and just lots of information within that dashboard. And then basically what you do is you add them to one of the general ones. So here's an example here. You can have in each of these up to 4 panels, and you can tell it how often do you want it to refresh. So it might be that if you've got a wider list, then you just do a 2 by 2 by 2, or you might do a 3 with just the 1 panel across the bottom. But you can export these out of the system, and as you can see there, we've got the pie chart. So again, something simple, but if you are looking at different views perhaps of some of the information, so it might be purchase orders by delivery date. It'd be great if we could have a dashboard. Now it might be you're doing that and reporting elsewhere, but something that's live, that's just continually refreshing, then that's certainly an option there for you. Right, we come back to the help and user guides. There's a couple in here. Cash book, I'm going to skip there. Sort of invoicing as well. This one's quite an interesting one. So for those of you who go into the Sage invoicing module, it's an option which will actually switch on, so you can see the sales order number in there, which Sage doesn't have as standard. So if you enable that, then it will show you the sales order number against that. But I wanted to jump to section 4, and again, there's a few options in here. This is an interesting one. So for purchase or sales transactions within the nominal ledger transaction inquiry, you can switch on a view source, and it will show you where, so long as it's linked to a customer or supplier, where the source of that particular transaction was. But the one I really want to highlight and just touch on is this option here, whereby, again, for journal entries, creating a new journal, it's again a very simple feature whereby once it's enabled by Sage user, we can enable whether or not they've got the post button, and you can control that by user. So again, I suppose the one option is don't give me access to that, but it's just an option whereby only authorized users will actually be able to post a journal. Moving down from there, just into the price book. So you've obviously got Sage price books. For those of you who perhaps have looked at it but you have not explored it any further because perhaps it wasn't flexible enough for you, again, we've got some further options in here. So for example, being able to do price bands by delivery address, options to maintain customer specific discounts. even down to multiple price bands per customer account. But again, I'm going to jump into one of these, which is this option here. So updating prices and discounts by percentage. So again, for those of you who perhaps increase your prices annually in line with the RPI index or the RP index, then this could be an option for you. So again, once this is enabled, just inside of Sage, we come to there it is there, price book here, and you can update discounts by percentage or update prices. And it's as simple as saying, okay, what price band are we looking to update here? So that's standard Sage price bands. I'm going to filter it for a product group. What percentage do we want to increase? So I would say 10%. And if I list the items, it's then going to, within the accessories group, pull through all of the items with pricing in the standard price band. You can list zero priced items if you wanted to as well. And it's going to apply then the 10% increase. And if I click on update, that is then just going to update all of those stock items and the price groups as well. And say there is one for discounts by percentage as well. So again, a nice, quick and easy way, which not for everybody, but if that's something which you're manually doing and then manually changing, that could be a time saver. And actually the last one within there as well is a couple of imports, one of those being able to export your price books as well out to an Excel, but then also being able to update all price book prices by a percentage increase. So slightly less flexible than the previous option as well. But yeah, the import exports there as well. Okay, moving on. Keeping this rapid, hopefully keeping you involved. Can't see any questions in the chat, but if there are, please, as Darren said, feel free to use that. Let's jump forward now into the purchase ledger, and I've got a couple in there. The first one actually is 6.1. Now, I thought this was a standard Sage feature for a long period of time. I didn't realize it wasn't, but this option here will tell you if there's an allow you to check to see if that transaction reference already exists. So how does that work? Once that's enabled, if we come to pick a purchase ledger account, I'm going to pick Ernie Swinton and I'm going to put on an invoice, and hopefully I've got my invoice references right and good old Blue Peter fashion, as I said earlier. So it checks on the invoice date and the invoice number. I'm sort of checking for duplicates, and you get this tick box here, and that's basically telling me there's a duplicate. So that an invoice with the same reference and date has already been entered for this particular supplier. So again, if that's a challenge you've got where just the sheer volume and there are times where you've got duplicates, just a nice simple one that you can just enable, and it is going to just a very quick check to make sure there isn't a duplicate record. The next one I wanted to touch on is 6.3. Now, if any of you have used in the past or have Sicon approvals, or the artist formerly known as WAP, and using the invoice approvals module, then you may well already be using this element, which is available in the approvals or the WAP add-ons folder. But for those of you who aren't, or are going, what on earth is Steve talking about? This feature is available also inside of the enhancement pack. And this is aimed at those of you who use Sage's unauthorized invoices. Now, if you're unsure what I mean by that there, it's actually a standard Sage feature where within the processing and ledger settings, you can switch on user authorization. Now, there's a bit more configuration you do set up. Typically, it's a balance sheet nominal. It can be a P&L, in which case you don't need this function, but typically it'd be a balance sheet nominal. And once all that's set up, it's a standard Sage feature. And as you enter a purchase invoice, and I've got a limit which basically says if it's less than £1,500, but this is the tick box I'm on about. So if I enter an invoice for £100, that's ticked. And if I was to save this, it will actually get posted to that unauthorized nominal. And then there's an option, which I'll show you in just a moment, within Sage where you can approve that. You can change the threshold. So if I set that to £1,600, so you could set it that every invoice needs to be approved. And basically what happens is, if we look at the transaction inquiry screen, under the query flag here, you'd end up with a U, and as you can see from my system, that's currently sat in that unauthorized purchases. All of that is standard Sage. To authorize it, so if you've got Sicon approvals, you can approve it within there, within the web portal. But if not, inside of Sage, you've got invoice authorization, and you can see the invoice there, and you can authorize those invoices. So it's just a way of controlling it. Now, that all works great in principle, but you get to month end and you want to close off your accounts. So you could run a report and then do a manual journal for your accruals, but this is where this particular feature in the enhancement pack comes in, where under purchase ledger we have post unauthorized purchase invoice reversing journal. So this particular screen here lists all of those purchase invoices that sat awaiting approval. You can enter a journal date, a reversing date, give it a title. You can send it to a held journal, obviously before posting if you want to make some changes. But essentially, when you process that, credit, debit, debit, credit, and it just means then you've got your month-end accounts. Now, you can probably tell by some of my terminology, I don't come from a finance background. That said, I do know from doing this role for a number of years now that whenever I've shown this to the finance teams who deal with these unauthorized invoices, it always raises a smile because it's a huge time saver. Right. For those of you who don't use that, obviously might coerce you into considering Sage's authorization piece. There's a couple of other ones just wanted to point out just in here. One of those is this particular one. So if you're using, it's purely for reporting purposes, it says there in the help and user guide. But if you're using analysis codes, well, actually what you can do is it's a button here where we'll display the analysis codes as you're entering a purchase invoice, and then you can select them. So again, it's purely for reporting purposes, but and the beavers need to create and adjust your reports, but that's quite a nice one as well. If that level of analysis, what you need, certainly have a look at 6.7 there. Right, rapidly moving on to 7. Okay, so there's a couple within here. First one is the very simple, just allowing the purchase order delivery address, allowing you to amend it. So something quite simple. And just as you're putting it on there, the delivery address, amending that particular delivery address there. Can't really say much more than that. We've got this. I really like this one though, which is 7.2. Now I don't have this enabled because otherwise what happens is the next demonstration I'm a little tied. But in terms of this particular option, it's again about simplifying the user experience. So with this enabled, again, what it will do is it will restrict and only show the stock items where that supplier is set up against the stock item. So what I mean by that is, again, back in Sage, if we look at the stock list, where, for example, here, this particular stock item with that enabled would only appear when I select Atlas ranges. So it wouldn't appear if I picked another supplier as well. So again, just a way of restricting, saying, well, obviously, if you've got multiple suppliers on there, as I select those suppliers, then it's going to appear. But it's just a way of being able to restrict that long list as you go through. We then jump down to this particular one here, which is why I kept it open there. So maintain purchase order line dates on a single screen. So again, if I just come back to here, this is what I was on about at the moment. So you can see the requested date is blank, but actually with this option switched on, rather than coming in. So if, for example, let me, I'll pick the 20th, and that's going to update for all the lines for a moment. But imagine I come back into this and we don't need those until the 22nd, rather than have to come in, edit the line. With this simple option here is I can now just change that particular date there, and I can save that. And what that's doing, if I just edit that line there, is rather than edit and change, it's updating. I must pick the other one, but you get the idea. It's allowing me, when I save that, it would update the lines itself. So again, very, very simple. Hopefully it makes sense that it's a pack with lots of little things in there. But again, if you've got your purchase orders, a lot of lines, and you are updating the individual lines, then that could be a huge time saver. Okay. In terms of some of the others, this is an interesting one. So enabling you to set up supplier price lists with quantity breaks. So you kind of go, well, why isn't that the price list? Well, it's not, it's not a price list itself. It's basically being able to set up and say, well, for a particular supplier, we've got quantity breaks within there, so you can then edit those. So quantity of more than one, that's the price. If it's more than 5, it's that price. More than 10, and it just means then as you're adding the purchase order entry onto there, then the price will be automatically calculated based on the combination that you have as well within there. So that's quite a nice one if you do have the quantity breaks, and that actually works really nicely for those of you using Sicon material planning as well, as an option there, where being able to see the quantity break and adjust that should you need to. Last one, kind of within this section, really, there's a lot in there. I mean, we'll just kind of jump through, is an option to import purchase orders. So, and actually there's an import sales orders as well. So for those of you at the moment who are spending a lot of time manually writing purchase order, funny enough, there's a customer I was speaking to yesterday where everything's manual. They're using the Sicon kitting, so we were just talking about some of the options there, and said to them a couple of options. They could look at material planning for the bigger picture, or actually they could look at the copy and paste function that we've just added into distribution, or in this instance, if you can get it into a spreadsheet, get it into our template, and just import multiple purchase orders with multiple lines on them into the system, which is great. Right, moving down to sales ledger. So coming towards the end there. This is an interesting one here. So hopefully it never happens. Hopefully credit control is absolutely fine, but an option whereby if you put a sales ledger account on hold, any live open sales orders, you get a message here, say there's X amount of live sales orders, you can actually put all the sales orders on hold in terms of that. So rather than put the sales ledger account on hold and then go and find those, it's just a nice, easy way to be able to step through that. As I mentioned earlier as well, you can switch on these where relevant. I mean, again, there's other ones. There's memos in there which you've got. Customer budgets, being able to set up customer budgets as well against that, just purely for reporting purposes as well. But that's probably the major one within that particular section itself. And then down to sales orders. So the first one here, as I mentioned, sales order import. So nice and straightforward there. Again, perhaps if you get a lot of orders come through and you're manually putting at the moment, drop them into that spreadsheet and then be able to import that. Again, very similar to the purchase order, we've got the order line dates. So if you're looking to manage line dates on a sales order, again, we've got that option on there within that. The simple copy a sales order to a sales return. again, quite niche, but that might be one. This is an interesting one. If you put a sales order on system, and actually we haven't put any prices on there, actually the system doing a pop-up basically saying, look, if you save it, we're going to put the order on hold. So to avoid accidentally those ones slipping through where you've put a customer order on, haven't put any prices, and then the customer's going, well, you said you'd give it me for free. And then just trying to see where it is. There we go. This one down here is quite a nice one. So on your sales order, so if I just go to my sales order screen, now this might not work because I haven't got everything enabled, so I don't use acknowledgement. So but we'll try it anyway. Ignore this pop-up. Ignore the next one. Not relevant. There are other Sicon add-ons. So I'm going to get rid of a few of these. Get rid of 10 of those. And if I save that for a moment, is this button here, save, allocate, and dispatch. Now, by clicking on that, there's saved a sales order, allocated the stock. Now I have got auto allocate stock on there, and then just brings up straight away the goods dispatch screen. So that's right. I wasn't sure whether I had order acknowledgement switched on or not, but basically, rather than step through the process, you switch that on, and it'll do that element for you. And now that's ready. There's your dispatch note. It'd have gone straight to the spooler. That's now ready to be invoiced. So again, would I use it? I don't know. We have no need to do that, but it's a nice one for just stepping that through. This is again just a very little one. Special prices by date range. So being able to within this date range, you can see how long this one's actually been in there. It could be for a specific customer, a range of customers as well. Just what the price we're going to offer. So again, if you have the type of business where coming up to Christmas, that's we haven't even got Halloween out of the way yet, but I'm talking about Christmas. You're coming up to Christmas and you're going to do a Christmas special for either a single customer or a range of customers, or actually even an analysis code. So perhaps you break your customers down by an analysis code, but then being able to say, yeah, during this date range, they're going to get this price for this particular stock item as well. So that's a nice one to drop in. And then so there's loads in there. Feel free if there's any that you particularly want me to jump into. But last, by no means least, we then get on to stock. Now, from the stock side of things, there's I suppose there's a few really to pull out. The first one is 10.22. So this is something which we added into. So for those of you who've got Sicon barcoding, you'll already have this. But this is aimed at customers who use Sage's traceable stock items, so whether it's batch or serial traceability, and use Sage's stock take. For those of you who are already in that position, you'll probably start nodding, because actually doing a stock take, it's a bit of a pain, because the issue is that you can't do it. You do your stock take and then you have to do your batch trade and serial stuff elsewhere. So what we've done is we've actually, as it says here, the feature enables you to carry out a stock take on traceable stock items. So how this works is if we come into so what am I talking about? It's not in there. It is, where's stock? There you go. If you go to stock control, you go into manage stock take, Sage your stock take, and there's one I've did for a demonstration the other day. So standard Sage stock take, but the difference that you have is this column here first off, and you'll see this. We can see these ones are traceable. So for example, if I go down, my dishwasher is serial traceable. So at the moment, the count, I haven't got an actual, but what you can do is you can enter your traceable numbers in here. So you can enter, you can add the traceable numbers. Now certain things are locked down because I've got barcoding, but essentially you can add your serial numbers as you do your count. And what that means is you can display your variances, but as we complete the stock take, it's going to do your additions and your write-offs to the variance account. So again, have a look at the Health and User Guide for more specifics, but this is a great utility if you're in that scenario. Also, as we come through, again, I don't know if Sage has that now, but customer codes. So as you're adding a sales order, being able to set up customer codes against the stock item and allow the person to put on and enter the customer code as you're entering a new stock item is quite nice. There's a number of CSVs for updating those elements, but the one there's a couple more just to touch on. I do want to just touch on this particular one here, 10.23, and this is a stock shortage transfer. Again, for those of you perhaps using Sicon distribution warehouse replenishment, or you've got Sicon barcoding, it's a screen that you might be familiar with. But if your type of organization that has multiple warehouse locations and you need to transfer the stock between those locations, this could be the utility for you. So again, we come into stock control and we have stock location wizard. So, sorry, not stock location wizard. What am I talking about? It's not that one. It's the stock shortage transfer. So that's the one I want there. And what this allows you to do is to create a brand new transfer. So we can say, okay, can give a description you want to, but we want to transfer from this warehouse. We're going to do that today, and we're going to transfer to one of our other warehouses. Got the postal address in there, and I can start adding stock items on there that I want to transfer. I can tell it which bin I'm going to take it from, which bin I'm going to transfer the other end. I can give it a reference if I want to. How many am I going to transfer? And at this point, I can also allocate stock, and I could have multiple lines, and there is an import on there now. So again, we can manage this in one of our templates and then import that into here, the list of the stock items. Once you've allocated from here, you've got options then where you can print a pick list to be sent down to your warehouse to pick it. And then once they've dispatched it, we can flag and say, yep, we've dispatched these. Now, the main difference is we now get a dispatch note, which we can then put with the delivery. So again, this is often the conundrum customers have got is the paperwork. You know, the system doesn't generate the paperwork because there isn't anything to do that. But what it's also done is, whilst that's in transit, and I'm just going to close this for a second and just going to pick this one here. This is dispatch. And if I was to look at the stock history, that stock is actually now sat in an in-transit location. So it's still within Sage, but it's no longer in the source warehouse. So it's sat in transit. And then when it gets to the other side, we can then receive that stock in. And that stock now is in either your default bin, or if we'd specified a bin at the other location. So it would now be in this instance in the factory. So it's a great way of just being able to manage that transition there from warehouse A to warehouse B with some paperwork there as well. So I think that's really useful there. So we'll talk about that one in a moment. You've got to be careful with that, and it's not one that I would run yourself. Last one I want to touch on is this particular one here. Now, this isn't something you're going to use every day, but it's a great utility. So we've got, it's an EBS prospect. I don't know whether they're they've started the project, but I know we're well on the way with it. And this particular client, their situation, or the way they were set up, is separate warehouses. It's actually a single warehouse location, but in Sage, they're set up as disparate locations. And they want to deploy the Sicon barcoding solution. Now, the challenge with that is, with our barcoding, you log into the correct location. So they might have a sales order with stock from multiple locations, and it just makes the visibility of picking a bit of a pain. And actually, the reality is they shouldn't be set up as all these separate locations. They should be set up as bins within a single location. Now, problem was, this is the situation we're in, but this particular utility allows you to migrate from multiple warehouse locations into a single warehouse with the stock then in bins replicating those warehouses. So it's a utility. Again, I wouldn't run this yourself. I would always recommend speaking with your business partner. Do a backup. You obviously run your tests and stuff first, but again, if you find yourself in that situation, there's a utility for that. And there's also a utility inside the enhancement pack where if you're, in fact, always worth having a look. Again, do not run this, and I think I'm pretty sure it tells you not to, but it is where is it? We got stop type conversion. So for those of you who are currently using traceable stock items and want to flip it around, or you want to do it the other way around, this utility, basically it's a stop type conversion. So we actually check out the stock, check it back in, and allow you then to change the parameter of the product group. So again, it's a cracking utility if you find yourself in that. I mean, there's loads more, Darren, that I could go through. You can see there's a huge amount in there. You get a lot of bang for your buck, but I've got 3 minutes. So I don't know, Darren, were there any questions in the chat, or whether anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask any questions that I may not have covered?
There's no chat questions. I mean, I've got, a comment probably more than a question. Is what we tend to find is that, a client will phone into support and say, I've got this particular issue, whatever that happens to be. And quite often, on the back of that particular inquiry, the enhancement pack is the resolution to that particular problem a lot of the time. And companies buy the enhancement pack just for one feature. Yeah. But then what we tend to find is that over a period of time, they gradually add in more and more and more and more. So, it's not a one size fits all, obviously, but it is it does give you a lot of features that Sage just doesn't have.
Yeah, I mean,
quite often until you've got the enhancement pack, you don't realise that.
No, and funny enough, it's something which I encourage sales team to do. So if we get an inquiry, say from yourself, Darren, you say, if you've got anything for traceable stock items, for example, well, by the way, if you can't spell, it doesn't help, but I literally do a Control F and then just look for keywords there just to see if there's anything. Obviously, some of them I know, but it's something we're not in every day. But there you go, traceable stock take, happy day. So it's a good one. Just it's worth sometimes just having a look in the help and user guide. Just we've got this conundrum, is there anything there for journals or for this? But yeah, there's a lot of bits in there. It is interesting over the years, Sage have closed some of the gaps. So not only sort of with the enhancement pack, that's great. It's still in there. The reason we haven't removed it is some customers might still be using that feature. They've used it for years, so keep it in there. But normally there's something for everybody in there.
Absolutely. I mean, the best way, unless you've got a specific problem, but how would you know if the enhancement pack would be of benefit to you? The help and user guide is the place to go, really. I use it a lot. If I've got a particular, I go out for an account management meeting and we discuss sort of issues with processing and that sort of thing. Control F on this form is definitely somewhere that I spend quite a bit of time in.
Yeah, no, without a shadow
know,
of a doubt.
and we offer bespoke options as well. We will always look in here to see if this solves that particular problem that customer has.
Yeah, I mean, again, bespoke will give you specifically what you want, but certainly this day and age, that should, in my opinion, should always be a last resort. If there's something there that does it in, fits 90-95% of what you need, it's always the easier one. It's far easier, it's more sustainable for upgrades, and in the longer term. But yeah, I mean, if there aren't any questions, Darren, we'll let people go. But genuinely appreciate those of you who've joined us today in there. As is always the case, you probably have a look through and think, oh, what was that? Happy to jump on a call and answer any questions independently, should there be any.
Perfect. Thanks for doing that again, Steve.
Not a problem at all. Thanks, Dan.
And thanks to everyone for watching today. We'll catch up with you soon.